first of all, whatever you decide to do, you have to make sure that you actually love what you're doing. It's a passion. Mm-hmm. That's very vitally important, right? Because then it just becomes a job. It's not, you want as an entrepreneur, you want it to almost be a hobby, right? And you have to actually want to help people, at least in my business, helping people.
Not every battle has a success story, but every success story has a battle. Hi, I'm Tia Minzoni, CEO and co-owner of luxury private jet company Stella Jets, a serial entrepreneur, a survivor, and your host of the Fight to Fly show. On Fight to Fly, I sit down with the world's highest achievers who share their incredible stories and lessons they've learned on their own Fight to Fly. Expect to be inspired, entertained, and motivated to break down the barriers between you and your high-achieving success story. Come back each week for a new episode and be ready to empower yourself to give your dreams wings. Welcome to the Fight to Fly show. Welcome to this week's Fight to Fly show. This week we sit down with Scott Somma. Scott is with Affinity Wealth and Insurance Partners. He's someone who's been introduced to me through a mutual friend and just has a wealth of knowledge on his own Fight to Fly story. So I'm super excited to have you on the show, Scott. Welcome to Fight to Fly.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit actually yesterday, and you have an incredible story, which is what we love to have on the podcast, right? Because so many people have stories and either they can't figure out what's holding them back, or maybe they think something outside of them is holding them back, but they have a true desire to be better or reach their goals or reach their dreams. And you have some good stories on that. So I would love for you just to introduce to our audience who you are and kind of, what you do now, because I think now you do a lot to help other entrepreneurs and businesses, but also you haven't always been there. So I'd love to hear how you got there and what your path was.
Yeah. So, I would love to say, so I do financial planning, estate planning, insurance. And then, Chris, you had on earlier, private equity company that we're, teaming up with, it'll give us, more bandwidth to help out our clients for alternative, investment strategies and stuff like that. So, been growing, pretty significantly since, 2017 when we, left, Citizens Bank, which we were, me and myself and my partner were there, and, just kind of grinding it out ever since, and just trying to get a more national presence and just continue to grow, help people out in as many ways we possibly can. I would love to tell you that my story is I came from nothing and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's quite the opposite. I came from a very good family, great mother and father, taught me a lot of values, ethics, integrity, all that kind of stuff. But my father, was a very successful, automotive executive. So, I had a great childhood, had, a nice house and everything we wanted, great food on the table, all that kind of stuff. So wasn't at a lack of financial troubles growing up. It was quite the opposite. When I got into college, that didn't last very long, 2 years at a community college. And I had a cup of coffee at Central Michigan for a little bit and realized college just wasn't for me. I just didn't have the attention span or the maturity to deal with it. And just wasn't in my DNA at the time. So, I got into, through my father and his, in the automotive company. I was the largest automotive supplier in the world at the time. Got me an internship and thought maybe this was going to be my path, and kind of, followed him and see where it was going to go. Well, quickly I realized, I was not Scott Somma. I was Randy Somma's son. Everywhere I went. I had no identity. I was in the shadow of, my father. And at first it was okay because I was learning how to, get into the workforce and all that. But as I got older and I started dealing with people, again, it was never me. It was my father and who he was. And it started to bother me, not having an identity. So, I called my dad up one day and I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. He asked me why, told him why. And he respected it. And he goes, what are you going to do? And I go, I don't know. I'm going to figure that out. But thank you for the opportunity. I got to go make my own name for myself. So got a job at Rock Financial, which was a sub company of Quicken Loans at the time, doing mortgages. Did that for about a year, and then got headhunted by a local brokerage firm. So did mortgages till about 2009, and started realizing that I want to help people on a broader spectrum than just doing mortgages. I always knew financial planning. I had an interest in it, but when you're in your 20s, who's really going to trust you with their future retirement and all that? So what I decided to do was, when my decision to get into mortgages was, I can learn how money moves and how borrowing works. And then in 2009, I took a job with Citizens Bank, moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ran a few branches out there. So I got to learn the banking side, got to learn how businesses operated, that kind of thing. So I started building this wealth of knowledge in all these different areas, which would eventually lead me to financial planning, which I ultimately, and as I carried on in my career, I knew more and more I wanted to do it. It just, the timing wasn't right. So along the way though, I started getting from my boss, there's a certain way that I wanted to do things. And it wasn't, I didn't go against the grain, but there's a big difference between a leader and a boss. I want to be a leader. I didn't want to be the guy in the corner office barking orders at my workforce, because I don't see how that motivated them. And plus, I was very good at sales and what I did. Why would I put that talent on the shelf when I had numbers to hit?
Right.
So by leading by example, again, the difference between a boss and a leader is the leader's out front. I want to be in the war with my team.
Right.
I want to go attack this goal together, and I was going to lead the charge. They didn't like that. They wanted me to do things their way and all that. So they kind of caught me at the right time. I want to say it was 2013-ish, right around there. I started thinking, okay, I think it's time I make this move to the investment side. And I had sent a lot of the bank's clients to the investment side. It was just one of the things. I knew how to talk to the clients. I knew how to slide them over, and then they would take it down. So as I'm kind of going through this thought process, one day, John Harshman, good friend of mine, to this day, he was running what's called the premier banking side, which is licensed bankers, and that's how you kind of came up to eventually become an advisor. Shows up in my office one day, and he's like, "Hey, when you're done, I'm going to work out of your office today if you don't mind, but when you get an hour, I want to talk to you." So did my thing. He pulls me and he goes, "What do you think about coming to the investment side?" I was like, "John, I think you're catching me at the right time. Give me the night to think about it. I want to make sure, and then I'll let you know." Next morning, called them up, said, "I'm ready to go." So got licensed, started working with the bank's high net worth clients, learning at the investment side. And then through that process, the bank went public. They may have went public beforehand, but they went public. All of a sudden, it wasn't about the clients anymore. It was about the bottom line. And they told us we could do what we need to do for the clients, but they had an objective. They want us to do things the way they wanted to do it. And my business partner and I, who I left with, it wasn't the way we want to do things. So it was clearly time to go. So in 2017, Derek and I left. We created a company. Had a different name at the time. We left with another guy. That ended up not working out, which is fine. And then we rebranded as Affinity Wealth and opened up an insurance arm so we can help people not just with their wealth planning, but their insurance, their estate planning, capital gain mitigation strategies. Learned a lot along the way, and which led me to Chris with Solico, where now we're going to be able to help people on an even broader spectrum, bringing more value. But yeah, to go back to your earlier question, fighting through, making my own identity to being part of an organization where I wasn't in control of my own culture, where my values and my integrity were running completely perpendicular to the bank. It was time for me to create, we just want to create our own culture. Yeah. And that was it. Yeah. So I believe there's a right and wrong way to do things. Sometimes the right way is the hard way. Yeah. But if I'm going to put my head on my pillow and sleep at night, I'm okay with, it may take a little longer to get to the goal by doing it the right way. But that's the way we choose to do things. Yeah.
I think, you touched on so many great things there. Thanks for sharing that journey with us. But, there's people who are cut out to be entrepreneurs or who should be an entrepreneur and have a hard time leaving that stability of someone else cutting them a check.
Right.
But they have those same, they don't like their job because they can't control their culture. They can't control their income. And at any minute, you can get laid off, you can get fired without any warning. And a lot of people feel like, okay, because of these things, I'm ready to take a step into entrepreneurship. And I always say, like, not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Some people, there's nothing wrong with it. There's people that they just want to make a check, work 9 to 5, go home, leave the work at the office. And that's a great life if that's what brings you joy. But for people like you who are like, no, I want to be able to have some control over this and become an entrepreneur and go do something that you're really passionate about. That's your dream, right? And so they go and do that. But you have someone who loves to cook, open up a restaurant, or you have, someone who starts buying franchises and loves that. And not everybody has the same access to information on how to actually be successful and protect themselves as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. And even as, a CEO or CFO for someone else's business, your job is really dependent on that company being successful. So I love that there's people like you that are there for new entrepreneurs or growing entrepreneurs to say, hey, here's how we can build your wealth. Here's how we can protect your assets. What is the most common thing that you see, like the most common mistake that you see people or businesses make? And something that's, I'm not going to say easy, but something that maybe you solve a lot that really makes an impact on people.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Again, I go back to the right and wrong, right? So, and I gave you this example when we talked earlier about the dartboard, which I stole this idea from my father, who's been a mentor of mine, obviously, but also mentors other young professionals. You put 2 dartboards up and you put an arrow in the bullseye. And I'll tell the people I mentor, theoretically, do these 2 pictures mean the same thing? Is it, somebody threw the arrow right into the middle, right into the bullseye? Yes. What if I told you in this picture, the archer stood behind the line, shot the arrow into the bullseye, but in this picture, the archer stood behind the line, shot the arrow into the wall, and then painted the bullseye around the arrow? In other words, the outcome is the same on the surface, but it's how you got there is the difference. There's a right and a wrong way. So how do you do it the right way? How do you find people? If you want to become an entrepreneur, how do you make that decision on how you're going to take that journey? Well, first of all, whatever you decide to do, you have to make sure that you actually love what you're doing. It's a passion. Mm-hmm. That's very vitally important, right? Because then it just becomes a job. It's not, you want as an entrepreneur, you want it to almost be a hobby, right? And you actually want to help people. At least in my business, helping people, truly helping people. Secondly, you can't do it because it's going to make you a lot of money maybe one day. Obviously, we all do this because we want to be, and everybody's level of success is different. Mm-hmm. But what's your definition of success? Is it having a bunch of millions and millions of dollars in the bank so you don't care who you hurt along the way? Mm-hmm. Or is it growing a successful company where you do it the right way and you're truly helping people because you care? Mm-hmm. You have to enjoy the process. It's going to be tough. It's going to suck. It's going to suck a lot, right? You may have to miss holidays. You may have to miss weekends. You may have to miss time away from your family. God bless my wife, who is very, very the best support person I have in my life. I love her to death. Thank you, Courtney. And my kids who are, and that my family is my complete inspiration. And she is my absolute biggest supporter. And she just gives me the green light to go do what I need to do. And she handles things back home. And she knows that we're building something bigger for us down the road. Mm-hmm. But again, it's not about the money. We want to support our families, right? But if you're just in it for the money, you're going and you don't enjoy the process. Mm-hmm. It's enjoying the process, going through the mistakes and learning from them. Maybe keeping up with the new ways of doing things, not being stuck in your old ways, right? Because what may have been pertinent 10 years ago is not not pertinent today. In my business, things change all the time. Legislative changes happen. New products come on the market. Taxes move around. It's forever changing. So you have to be nimble to understand the changes in your industry and be able to adapt to them. But you have to enjoy that process, right? You got to enjoy the process. If you enjoy the process and you're in it, not just for the money, but you're in it to build a successful company. So one day you can sit back and go, I built that. And by the way, my kids, if they ever decide they want to get into what I do, one or both of them, if they don't, fine. I have something for them to plug themselves into, and then they can carry on, what I did and what I built. Right. So it's again, you have to love what you do. You have to care about who you're helping, and you have to enjoy the growing pains of the process.
For sure. Great advice.
That's the best advice I can give you. And just know it's not going to be fun. There's going to be,
you're going to have throw in the towel weeks.
Right. Absolutely. But that's the whole point of it, right? Is the battle scars you get in the end. But 15, 20 years from now, you look back and say, look, I've never met a successful business owner that said that they didn't go through hard times.
Yeah.
That person doesn't exist.
For sure.
Unless, there's maybe an anomaly out there.
Yeah.
Right. But every successful business owner that I consider did it the right way always has a story about how they almost threw in the towel one day.
Yeah.
Things weren't going right. This curveball hit. Something happened. It's not a smooth road. It is bumpy as hell along the way, but it's you got to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy making mistakes and learning from them.
Yeah. And, successful and serial entrepreneurs understand that. And we allow grace for each other because we know, right? And try to allow grace for ourselves, which is a lot harder sometimes than allowing grace for others. It's the people who they've always worked for someone else, and that someone else is taking those risks and hiding their throwing the towel days, right? And so even as top level executives, they don't always see the ups and downs that an entrepreneur or a business owner or the person who's really taking all the risk go through. And so it's hard to understand that. So someone that's coming out of maybe a corporate environment, even as an executive position, and they're going to go into entrepreneurship, a lot of times I feel like they have rose-colored glasses on, that they expect it to be smooth. And it's so not smooth. I think I told you yesterday, a lot of times I'll look at my daughter, who's my partner here at Stella Jets, and I'm like, I should have just bought a car wash. Why did we start a private jet company? It's probably been the most challenging business of my life, but I firmly believe in it. We're an all-woman owned company. I believe there needs to be more women in aviation, executive leadership, yada, yada, yada. I have a lot of passion for it, for a lot of things about it. Not just I have a passion for private jets because, who doesn't like private jets? But there's no passion in private jets, right? But there's a lot that goes behind it that keeps me going every single day. And one of those things is to build a company with an environment where your daughters and my granddaughters and my grandson and sons can go to work and be happy and have a culture where they can be impactful and grow and not hate going to work every day. And so I think even if one company out of 1,000 starts having a really good culture, and it's not all a money, kind of culture, that will start to make small changes that'll make a big impact with these younger generations. That's a lot of my passion. Advancing technology, as you know, I'm a total nerd about that. But I think that that's where the world is going. And so if we can have a little impact, it's less that the next generation has to pick up the trash from us for that. But I think there's also a lot of people who have started businesses, maybe first-time entrepreneurs that have come from those executive roles, that do it the wrong way. You're talking about doing it the right way, and they do it the wrong way, and they get a year, 3 years, 5 years in, and they've got a mess, right? And their options are fix it or close it, right? What do you say to those people?
Yeah. Well, my first answer would be, if you can afford to hire a business coach, do yourself a favor. Look, we are responsible for keeping our employees motivated, inspired, guiding them. But sometimes as business owners, there's a lot on our plate and things get messy in our own heads and we may miss something, right? So who keeps us accountable? Mm-hmm. But you also have to not have an ego where you think you ought to know it all. Mm-hmm. And you got it, right? You have to bring yourself down a little bit and realize that you can make mistakes, and making mistakes is okay. But if you can put your ego aside, and obviously you'd have to have the money to do it, right? But if there's a business coach out there that you know of that you could pay to just keep you in line. I mean, we all have goals, but there's steps that we take to get there. Mm-hmm. And if you're running a workforce and you're responsible for sales and all this, things will fall by the wayside. So it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to hire somebody to take that off your plate. Like my partner, Derek, and I are the perfect complement for one another. What he's good at, I'm horrible at. And I have zero problem admitting that. Mm-hmm. What I'm great at, he's not that great at. Mm-hmm. But collectively, we check all the boxes. And I'm a big proponent of staying in your lane. Mm-hmm. You start going in other lanes you don't belong in, that's when accidents happen, right? So be humble enough to realize when you don't belong answering a particular question or tackling a particular task. Mm-hmm. Assign that to somebody that has that expertise and then let them take care of it. Now you can monitor it along the way, right? Mm-hmm. But be humble enough to realize that you don't know it all. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to either find someone that does, or I have the person that knows the answer. Let me tag that person in.
Right.
And then business coaches, again, you may have the path, but going back to what you said, like maybe people that did work at a corporation that go to own their own business. A lot of times I see those guys are conditioned by the former company, and that's how they think things ought to be done. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's just breaking a potential bad habit that they may have. Right. Mm-hmm. So consult outside sources, talk to other entrepreneurs that you know and trust. I mean, look, there's so many financial advisors out there. I want to meet every single one of them. I don't see you as competition. There's plenty of business to go around, mm-hmm. right?
Right.
But I can learn something from you. I can learn something from a banker making $13 an hour at a bank where he may position something in a certain way that I go, I like the way you put that. I'm going to bake that into my value proposition, or I'm going to bake that into my sales pitch, or I'm going to bake that into our client service model, right? Mm-hmm. Keep your eyes and ears open and realize that we can learn from everybody. I can say this probably for you too, is the things that I do, I didn't just come up with. Mm-hmm. I've learned from different people over my lifetime, where I pick a little something up here. So who are my mentors?
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Now I have certain people that I have a business coach, and I have mentors that I bounce things off of regularly.
Yeah.
But I think we can all learn from each other. And as entrepreneurs, especially 30-minute conversations, grab a cup of coffee. I'd love to talk to you about what I'm doing and, bounce some questions off one another. Hey, listen, I have this problem. How would you handle that?
Yeah.
But you have to be humble, and you have to, again, put your ego aside.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with projecting that there's an inferiority there, that you may not know everything, but that's okay.
Right.
Right. As business owners, we have our own internal strengths.
Yeah.
But we have to recognize our weaknesses and make sure that we either bring in the right person to help out that weakness, or consult somebody to help you through that weakness.
Yeah. And you said the right words there, which is the right person. There's so many people who would love to give you their opinion, but have never been in your shoes. They believe their opinions are facts and only see things one way, and they're happy to give you advice that they've never even used themselves. So how do you find those right people that you can count on, that you can be vulnerable with, that you feel like will give you good advice, and that they have some, some experience on where they're pulling that advice from? How do you find those people?
That's a really good question. My quick answer would be, I very rarely turn down a conversation, because you never know what you're going to learn from somebody. Mm-hmm. Now, based off that initial conversation, that could lead to a relationship, right? Because you really don't know who you're talking to until you start talking to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, my circle, folks like Bo,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I trust Bo.
Mm-hmm.
If Bo says that you are a great person, I need to talk to you. Yeah, I want a 30-minute call
Mm-hmm.
with Tia. I would love to talk to her. Maybe I can learn something. Maybe I can't. But what's a 30-minute conversation to maybe better myself
Mm-hmm.
or better the way I do business? What can I learn from the private jet, from Stella Jets that I can maybe implement into Affinity?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe vice versa. What do we do in our models that maybe you didn't think of in your models, right? There could be overlap. There may not be, but to answer your question would be, ask your network if there's people that they know that you can just talk to over a cup of coffee, over a drink, over a dinner, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you got dead time, I know we're busy, but if we got 30 minutes and we can have a conversation, say, hey, listen, who do you know that you know and trust, that a business owner, maybe you have some prerequisites, I want, I prefer to talk to another financial planner
Mm-hmm.
or somebody in the financial services space
Mm-hmm.
that's relatively successful in building their business that you know and trust. I would love to talk to that person. I got stuff in my head and I want to bounce it off of somebody.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
That's
Ask
great.
for conversations.
Yeah.
But go to the people that you trust.
Yeah.
Right. For warm leads. Don't open Google.
Right. Right.
Don't
find someone on Facebook.
No, that's not,
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
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 Well, I really enjoyed talking to you. We'll have to do this again and have more
Absolutely.
conversations. Especially, just being able to educate the entrepreneurs out there that are watching us, I think is fun and impactful. So, thanks for coming. How can people reach you?
They can reach me at SOMMA at affinityip.com. That's AFFINITYIP.com. Our website is www.affinityip.com. They want to call me 248-840-3863.
Social media? You have any social media?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. Somebody hacked my Facebook account a while back, and I really don't feel like trying to retrieve it. So I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. But you can find me on there as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Fight to Fly. And don't forget to subscribe for even more motivational content and lessons from high achievers. And be sure to follow Fight to Fly on your favorite social media platforms.